Every time you walk into an ATM and slide your card through the card slot, or you swipe your card in a restaurant to pay the bill, you could be putting your money at risk.
See, I lost 90k. It happened day before yesterday evening. It was basically 10 transactions, 9 transactions of 10k each.
I have used their ATMs where security guards are not there. Okay. So most probably, I think these guys are targeting the ATMs where...
The modus operandi is simple. The magnetic strip on the back of your ATM card is cloned when the card is swiped. The other method is to capture your PIN number when you enter it on the keyboard.
They fitted a device in that switcher machine, so this can be operations happens in the morning time or in the night time. So basically this operations happens only for 24 hours.
In the first 5 months of 2017, 281 cases have been reported in Maharashtra, and the scam has cost customers a whopping 48 crore rupees.
When I inquired in bank, they told me that you have removed the money from bank.
Thieves use electronic device to access all the personal information stored in your debit card and record the PIN number and withdraw all the hard-earned money of yours.
The trouble isn't restricted to a particular state. People across the country are falling prey to ATM card skimming.
See, skimming is a device which is inserted into an ATM kiosk. It is disguised to look as a part of this particular ATM kiosk.
Cyber Crime Branch has already stepped into action, but the fraudsters have managed to route the money trail through multiple locations, making it difficult to track them.
With the RBI meetings, we are telling not only the security guards, the CCTV cameras, and then the hooters, all these things should be kept in place. Right. We are constantly at it.
So on the urban debate, we ask, despite filters and increased cybersecurity, is your money safe in banks? And why haven't banks come up with a foolproof plan for tackling card fraud despite an alarming number of such cases? Mirror Now report.
Well, this is the thing to worry about as we all get more and more comfortable with using our cards. We now have a problem of what is called skimming, where a little piece of plastic is added to your ATM machine. It makes a copy of your card while you just swipe it once. That's all it takes. And people find they're receiving messages of withdrawals from other parts of the country. Now, the question to ask here is, who's going to be responsible? If I suddenly discover 40 or 50,000 rupees have been withdrawn from my account, is it the responsibility of the ATM and the bank that's specifically running that ATM? Or is it the responsibility of my own bank? Is it my responsibility? Or is it the police? Who's going to actually make sure that my money is safe? And is there any hope at all for these victims to get their money back? That's the question we're asking. Our phone lines are open for those of our viewers who want to call in and share similar stories that you've faced or similar instances where you faced as a victim of such crime. As the digital India continues to use cards more often, remember, you might go to a restaurant where you hand your card to someone who takes it away just for a fraction of a couple of minutes and brings it back. That's enough time to make a copy of the magnetic strip of your card. Is our money safe then in that case? Joining me on the show this evening, Vikram Singh, former DGP Uttar Pradesh, PK Jain, former IPS officer. Sanyog Shelar is a cybersecurity expert. Pawan Duggal is a lawyer and also an expert in cybersecurity. Roongta is an investment advisor and a former banker. Dhirendra Kumar, CEO, Value Research. Ravi Shankar is a chartered accountant by profession and a victim of one such crime. Arvind Bhaskar, businessman by profession and a victim of this crime as well. I'm going to start with Arvind Bhaskar. Arvind, what happened with you?
It's an 1 month ago story. I went to the ATM to remove money.
Yes.
I did a transaction of 5,000 rupees. I did transaction, but money did not came out. I tried again. That means I did a twice transaction, but money did not came out. So I was in rush. I went. After half an hour, I received a message. You have removed 20,000 rupees on ATM. From the ATM.
फिर आपने क्या किया?
I did complain in bank. Went to the manager. I asked him the money is removed from my account. He told me we will take your complaint and we'll check it out how we will work out.
And have you got your money back?
No, not yet.
You've not got your money back.
Yeah.
Ravi Shankar, who joins us in Pune. Ravi Shankar, what happened with you?
No, it was on Sunday evening at around 9 p.m. I suddenly started getting SMS about withdrawals I immediately called the bank even as the messages were coming. So they blocked my card, but I think by then about 10 withdrawals were made. And later on in the day, I got a reversal of one. So I got 10 into 9, 90,000 rupees was withdrawn.
90,000
I suspect it was one specific ATM.
So here's the thing, we're getting a lot of complaints coming in from across the country. In Bangalore, there was a case where one particular ATM, everyone who used that ATM lost 40 to 50,000 rupees from their bank accounts. And this seems there was another case in Mumbai where everyone who swiped their card at a particular restaurant lost money because it was suspected that the waiters were skimming those cards. Dhirendra Kumar, this is a dangerous thing for us right now in the world of digital banking and the world of cards. We've moved a lot of people out of cash into cards at this point, but we haven't managed to actually get on top of the problem of skimming. And also, worse still, nobody takes responsibility for the lost money.
Yes, it is a problem, but I think the recourse, the grievance redressal mechanism with the bank is, very clear. If the customer has not compromised his credentials, he will get all the money back. Of course, it causes a lot of anxiety, and it is painful to see money slip out of your bank, and it leads to erosion of confidence. But the recourse is very simple. On top of it, I think banks are to be largely blamed for this nuisance because. There are, technologically it is very much possible that, where you are, you can actually limit the usage of the debit card or credit card in the same geography. I don't know why, and it is very much possible the IP address or the location of the withdrawal, the machine from which it is being withdrawn. I don't know why banks are, haven't thought about some simple checks and balances, risk management of withdrawal. And this will actually help them. Next is that in India we have actually made it a little more secure with a second the two-factor authentication. So if a customer has not compromised on his sharing his credentials, then I think he has a legal recourse. Besides the redressal mechanism, I have myself had this situation. But that was a slightly different one where I use my credit card for a lot of online payments and a lot of international payments as well. And once I got a lot of debits amounting to a couple of lakhs. And of course, all those things got resolved in a matter of few weeks. But it was painful. I had to pay that money for my credit card payments debited. And I just failed to understand that why the bank was not able to institute a mechanism that it is a simple risk, it's a trend which one can just observe this, that if one is getting a debit from your on your credit card every few seconds, and that too coming from a geography with which I have never done any business, there is absolutely no pattern to it. They should block it. They should not allow it. And the second two-factor authentication, even manual authentication, and actually putting some kind of validation mechanism in India for a value of for a magnitude.
Absolutely, Roongta, yes.
I think these are standard risk management practice on which the banks are amiss.
Roongta, obviously banks have to take some responsibility. They've increased the number of cards being used post demonetization. Everybody's encouraged to use cards. There are a lot of these fraudulent phone calls that are coming, asking people now for their details. We have senior citizens who've never used cards before who are now using cards, who are easy victims to this sort of crime. But skimming, anybody can be, anybody can be a victim of skimming. It just seems like we're just not ready for this kind of banking.
I think the key here really is that we've been asked to get onto a digital highway, which I think is very, very good. But the rules have not been defined. We're not even told whether it's you should be on the left side or the right side. And if you are on the wrong side, who's going to pay? I mean, clearly, when you get into an ATM is a bank branch. It's an electronic bank branch. Anything wrong that happens within that branch has to be the bank's responsibility. I think the big issues, some of the things that, so on paper, there is a clear grievance redressal mechanism, but just as we saw the recent descriptions of some of the issues, they don't get resolved for months on end. Look at the anxiety that people suffer from. Everybody, even I have had, just like Dhirendra, even I have suffered from wrong credits on my credit card. Now I had the tenacity to fight it, I had the ability to even pay it off and then get a credit. But why should a customer have to do this? These are rules that should be defined, and in many cases the banks have been super negligent. You cannot install a skimming machine in a ATM without some kind of connivance from some officials or some maintenance people within that bank's system. And then why shouldn't the bank be held responsible for it? And insurance would be available for it. The bank should be taking insurance.
But
so
right now, banks completely
that
wash their hands off. And I want to ask the people, let me ask Arvind. Arvind, did your specific bank in any way offer to help you? Did they say, don't worry, sir, this is all, insurance, it's our responsibility, we'll make sure you get your money back? What did they say to you when you got in touch with the bank?
They said me that you will get your money back, but we have to check all the things. They have to check, they told me that I have to check the CCTV footage. Then the main thing was that it was not the same bank ATM. That's
it was the ATM of a different bank.
Different banks, yes. That's the reason they are taking so much time. I have visited twice in a bank manager. He told me that only we will take time because it's not our bank ATM. So we have to take footage from that bank. We have to take the permissions from the banking managers. That's why it's taking delay. So, but they are not committing me that I will get the money back. But they are just telling me that we will we are trying our level best.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this is basically the incident which happens with Arvind. I guess it's something which is ATM centers, where basically low area where this happens. The schemers, thieves basically install this skimmer devices in the night time or basically a low light area, where basically in the morning
but there's no low light area, right? All ATMs in India, unlike overseas, they are in a closed space with the guards standing outside there. They're not in the dark corner of a street. So which means that someone was allowed to go in and fiddle with the machine. What was the guard doing? Isn't there a CCTV camera? Can the bank security not tell that somebody is fiddling with a machine? Are you actually telling me that, this, like Roongta said, this has to be done in connivance with someone who has allowed this person to come in? And let me also tell you that in Bangalore, there were several requests and several complaints made over the course of a week, and that ATM was not closed. They had to, customers were saying, please close it down so that we can actually, save other people from going through this pain. And they didn't close it down because one bank and the other bank just didn't find common jurisdiction between each other.
Well, if you look this is what the skimmer devices basically install in the night time, which we the security guard may be asleep or something kind of like the.
What is a skimmer device?
Skimmer devices is like a very small device which is installed before, where you basically insert the card on the ATM machines. So it's basically a fit on that same location where it's look like a.
It looks like part of the machine.
Yes, same part of the machines. So people can just feel like it's where you can you will not understand that difference between the actual machine and the skimming. So it's very light, where you can see can't find the difference if you can see the images which you share. So the skimmer, which is look like a same.
It looks like part of the machine. Okay, let me bring in Vikram Singh. Vikram Singh. Obviously, the police have a lot of very important things to deal with. There are harder crimes to focus on. But do you believe that our cyber security cells in our police forces are ready for this kind of crime? That they can actually get to the bottom of it? Because neither in Bangalore nor in Mumbai have they managed to find to find anything or pinpoint any accused.
Phil, let us understand that by no stretch of imagination is this crime in any way less than any crime against property. Reserve Bank is on record to say that 25% increase in cyber crime has happened in our country in the last 12 months. If this is not a wake-up call, then what is? But your question in respect of police preparedness to tackle this crime and investigation, I would say yes, attempts have been made, an honest attempt has been made, but in a scale of 1:10, we are somewhere around 2 out of 10, And another 8 points are there to be achieved before we give a satisfactory answer even. I'll give you a small example. An investigator in a very important metropolis was supposed to put a hard disk before the court, and he took a screwdriver, punctured the hard disk and put the cord inside and placed it before the court for evaluation and as an exhibit. Whether it was deliberate to compromise the quality of the hard disk, whether it was out of ignorance or both, I would not like to comment on that. But if that be the case of level of ignorance of the investigating officer to totally compromise the quality of the hard disk, I think it is miles to go before I sleep. And again, the training, the awareness and the response that is required is totally lacking. Both Arvind and Mr. Ravi Shankar, they said quite a bit, and what they left unsaid also needs to be understood, that the response of the police and that of the bank leaves much to be required, and we have a long way to go as far as police capabilities and competencies are concerned. There should be, yes, constant improvement, improvisation. If you have a system of one-time password in sensitive transactions, you could also have a provision of one-time passwords. And as Harshaji has said, that if there is no geographical compatibility in your movement, why should the bank allow the transaction at all? These things are very simple and can be incorporated in our systems. But it requires a lot of application of mind and streamlining of the processes that we have.
Pawan Duggal is a lawyer who's also an expert in these matters. Pawan Duggal, do you believe our law is very clear about where the responsibility lies? Because Dhirendra said that according to regulations, if it is made clear that the customer has not in any way compromised any of their details, so you have not given out your passwords or your codes to anyone, you should get your money back. But it is such a long, windy road to get one's money back from a bank.
I completely endorse your thought process. The fact remains is that we need to do a lot of homework on our law. Our law, being the Information Technology Act 2000, has a provision being Section 79, which deals with liability of intermediaries. Now, all banks who provide banking services on the network classify as intermediaries, and once they're intermediaries, they are mandated to exercise due diligence while they discharge their obligations under the Act. Now, as part of due diligence parameters that have been defined, these intermediaries are required to implement and maintain reasonable security practices and procedures. So the onus is on them to prove that they have implemented and maintained such reasonable security practices and procedures. And the law says an ISO 27001 is one such example of reasonable security practices and procedures. Now, in case if somebody loses his money thanks to the negligence of the bank, then bank clearly is responsible for giving the money back. But in reality, the fact is that the bank said, look, sorry, we're not intermediaries. It's you, the customer. You are the problem. We gave you the PIN. We gave you the username password. So the breach is deemed to have happened from your side. Now, when banks are in a state of denial, very quickly they have to realize that they have a statutory obligation. The problem is because the law is not effectively implemented, majority of people believe that they have no redress mechanism available.
Okay, let me just bring in some callers right now. We have people on the phone line and our phone lines are open. Viewers, experts on the panel will answer your questions. Parag is on the phone line from Thane. Parag, go ahead.
Good evening, madam. Good evening, my esteemed guests. My point is, first is, I don't understand why our money in, digital form is not getting insured at the level of the bank. It's out of question. They're lying. I can tell you that. When so many millions of transactions are happening digitally, it's out of question that our money is not getting insured.
Yes.
Number two is the chronic problem which lies in India is after you catch a thief, he comes out of bail in 6 months' time and he's back in the market doing the same nonsense which he's been doing earlier. So who stops this? How do we stop this?
How do you stop them? Harsh, Roongta, this is true. There doesn't seem to be as much sanctity to our money when it is digital as it would be if it was actually bundles of notes.
So absolutely, I think very clearly the further away you go from hard cash, the salience reduces. But I think the key issue really is that there is no clear accountability on the banks. And this is one place where I think it is the fault of the regulator. There is no point in defining rules making what I would call motherhood regulations. Okay, there has been a draft paper out on the liability of the banks for digital transactions and what should happen, etc. It hasn't been finalized. It's been, I think, more than a year, and here we are, the entire country is rushing into digital transactions. It's not very clear what is my ability to get compensation if something is happening. In fact, 90% of the times I would say the customer is not at fault at all, and I think the onus of proving that the customer is not on fault should be on the bank rather than the other way around. As of now, the bank says you prove you didn't make a mistake. I don't think that is the correct way of doing it, and one big reason is that we do not penalize, as a caller said, we do not penalize the guys who do the crime, and we do not penalize the banks who through negligence allow such crimes to be committed.
Yes, and I want to bring in Ravi Shankar. Ravi Shankar, this is the truth. I mean, you lost 90,000 rupees. That's not a small amount of money. Has your bank been in any way helpful to return that money to you, to help you with the investigation, to find out who took your money?
Yeah, they've been courteous, they've been polite, they've said they'll try to help me. But I have a basic query here. How are they deciding on the location of the ATM? Right? What is the security provided to the ATM? What is the design of the ATM machines? Why is it allowing a skimming machine being fitted? And why is there no security around the ATM? The ATM where I think I got defrauded, I think there was no security guard anywhere, and definitely not in the night. So I have a basic query on how are they trying to protect the ATM itself?
How are they trying to protect the ATM? Harsh?
Sometimes, just make a point, sometimes the security guard is the problem. There are umpteen number of times. I would not, for example, while using the ATM, do not allow the guard to come inside. In fact, the regulation says the guard should be outside. But in hot places, the guard stay inside just to get the air conditioning. Please do not allow the guard to be inside. The guard can be as much of a problem. Please remember, he is an outsourced security guard getting paid 8,000, 10,000 rupees. I do not know how much security checking is done before guards are employed. So I don't think guards are an issue. How are ATM locations decided? It's like any other marketing where there are footfalls would be where there are ATMs.
Let me take one more question. Prashant is on the phone line from Bangalore. Prashant, go ahead.
Hi, good evening all. I've been a victim of the card fraud, but this was outside the country. So basically, when you have now a lot of options of getting preloaded foreign currency cards, and I got one from ICICI and I traveled abroad and I used it and I did not get any money out of the ATM. So I was not sure if I was tricked or scammed. So I went to the local police. They said it's a bank issue, work with your bank. So I went with the bank which owned the ATM. They said that your card is not from our bank, we cannot help you. And then I had to take it up with ICICI Bank, who said they will investigate. And after 3 months, they took time to investigate, they did not come back. And after following up repeatedly, they got back to me saying that the money was dispensed and there was end of the chapter. So there was absolutely no way to kind of pursue it. And by the time I had returned back to India. So in this case, I don't know how to tackle this issue, and there is absolutely minimal security when you travel these cards, because if they are lost, anybody can use it. There is no PIN, so I just don't know how to.
What is the security? I'm going to go across to Dhirendra Kumar. Dhirendra, you said in the beginning that it is very obvious where the rules stand, but the truth is that nobody is willing to really follow the rules. Banks take an inordinate amount of time to actually refund money that's lost in cases like this, and customers are just left then trying to figure things out between the police and the bank and the actual bank of the ATM. It's an unfair system for customers.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, the anxiety which most savers or, bank service users will be facing. And, it is too much to expect that, the criminal investigation system will get an uplift, or, the criminal justice system will improve in this country. The example which was being talked about, that somebody just opened the hard disk with a screwdriver, completely destroying the evidence. So I think, I don't think we are geared. We are struggling with our, our criminal justice and investigation system, and this is way too sophisticated. But I think it's far easier for banks, and I think banks are to be blamed for being negligent. They're still, they think that they're still in the old age. Maybe they are living in the different frame of mind where they have been used to customers walking into their branch and doing things, and this just turned out to be ease of dispensing cash, nothing beyond that. But with this, I think there are a lot of banks have not been able to implement the basic risk management framework in your withdrawal system. Geographic limitation, monetary limitation, something which the users themselves can choose, that they don't want, putting restrictions and limitations. And this can be done with simple check boxes, that what the customer wants, and everybody can actually, and the two-factor authentication, which is unique to India. I don't know why it should not be, if a user chooses to use that as the default option, why it should not be allowed, and that will actually prevent him from all the anxiety. I don't know, we can have disposable passwords being provided all the time, one-time password, which is a way of life. Most users are getting used to it. So I think it is one should, I would blame it entirely on the bank. Their absolute, the amount of time or money that they spend on marketing, if they spend 5% of that on ensuring safety of the money which is the depositors or the users of these services, I think all these services, and this could be a one-time cost with very minimal significant continuous regular cost, this problem will be solved forever. Because looking for a crime to happen and then thinking that I'll go and file an FIR and then I have to lodge that complaint, and I don't know what is the redressal in the previous caller.
Right. Dhirendra, Arindam Dasgupta is on the line from Kolkata. I just want to hear.
Ombudsman.
Right, Arindam Dasgupta, go ahead. We can hear you.
Hello.
Yes,
Are you
go
able
ahead.
to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, this transaction happened on first night, that was Saturday, and the transaction went on till Sunday morning. And I only, came to know about this transactions. The amount was, debited from my debit card was 11,200 rupees, 22,000 in the multiples of 11,000. There were 5 transactions. In all, 89,600 rupees has been withdrawn. So when I checked with Google, who's the vendor, I found that it is a bank in Greece, Panhellenia Bank, CH in Greece. And my debit card was absolutely there in my wallet only in Kolkata. And I was in Kolkata. I have never visited Greece in my lifetime. So I have registered a complaint with the local police. I have registered a complaint with my bank, HDFC Bank. Now my query is, will I get back this money? Because it is not a fault of mine. The debit card is with me. All the documents are with me. I have never made any, ATM transactions outside India.
Harsh, will he get his money back? He should get his money back, but will he get his money back?
I think he will be able to get his money back. I think the issue is it's going to take him a lot of effort and running around to do it, which is actually, it's
unfair.
Fraud isn't new. The level of fraud in other countries is far higher than it is in India. Yet why don't we hear so much noise about it? That's because rules force the banks to ante up. And because the rules force the banks to ante up, it's factored into their cost of doing business, into their insurances. Here, why are the banks negligent? Because they can afford to be negligent. Who's there to call them to
call them out. And also, Vikram Singh, the thing about the police also is that when someone goes out to file a complaint, in this case, they file the FIR and say, take this FIR copy to your bank and the bank will handle it from there. Very rarely do we actually see the police getting involved and actually doing something about it. They just file the FIR, hand it back to the customer and say, use the FIR, go figure it out, which is unfair because, like you said, a crime has happened and it deserves investigation.
Obviously, Faye, and so very true that the poor complainant moves like a shuttlecock from the police station to the bank and from the bank to the police station. And the poor victim is treated like a pariah or an untouchable. And the banks have an inbuilt system that it is almost a one-way traffic. You want to buy a new credit card, they will unroll the red carpet for you and come out with a bouquet. If you want to make a complaint, heavens forbid, it is a one-way traffic. You go to a menu-driven call and then you end up tearing your hair apart. And you really cannot access the bank when you are in distress. But the police, yes, I would say that they need to be more sympathetic. They need to be more proactive. In the case of guards too, the two places and the locations in North India, Chandigarh and Delhi, where ATM skimming frauds took place, there were those that were without guards. I totally agree with Mr. Harsh that guards are a part of a problem, and the moment the guards left the duty, on purpose, these scamsters took advantage of the fact. And
Right.
again,
Let me bring in Ashok Sharma on the phone line from Delhi. Ashok Sharma, go ahead.
I'd like to ask this experienced panelist one question, that a country like Thailand, where everything is out of gear, you know, this police officer sitting in front of you, people after sunset, after every 50 yards, there is an open bar, people are gambling.
What's your point, Ashok Sharma? What is your point?
My point is that you won't find these type of frauds in that type of country. Why it is happening in our country? Because our cyber crime police is not at all prepared. Because the Prime Minister said Digital India, and now we were not prepared. Our police was not, cyber crime was not prepared, and they are doing these things. Is this the part of Startup India?
Okay. So the push for digitization should have made sure that we are also prepared for it. Dr. Kaveri Das is on the phone line from Assam. Dr. Das, go ahead.
Kaveri Das. I was in Mumbai in 2015 and I had an account in TNB Bank.
Yes.
Yes. And there was a fraud transaction of around 13,000 from my account. Then I went to the bank and I talked to the manager about it, and it was very surprising that the manager told me that, ma'am, you should not keep an ATM card nowadays. You know, there's so many frauds happening. So you better, whenever you want to do a transaction, you come to the bank and do a money transaction. So that was very surprising for me, that in the digitalization of these days, we should not be keeping an ATM card.
What bank was this, Dr. Das?
It was the PNB Bank in Jogeshwari East.
Punjab National Bank. Yeah.
Punjab National Bank. Dhirendra Kumar, Punjab National Bank advising its customers, according to Dr. Das, to not have bank cards and to actually visit the branch. So you're right. A lot of banks are still in the Stone Age and they're not comfortable with a demonetized or digital India.
Absolutely. You know, this is so shocking, and you know, it's so surprising that a banker suggesting it is going back in time. In fact, one of the biggest, you know, the only invention in the financial services which one can be proud of is an ATM machine. I remember the days when people had to queue up for the banks to open and take their own money out, and ATM helps you do that. So, you know, if a banker is suggesting that one should not be using, I think it speaks volume about it. They should not be scaring. I think it is a matter of, you know, securing the whole mechanism. And in India, there has been an attempt. But I think banks are simply not interested. You know, this great focus on marketing and sales, and absolutely no focus on, you know, securing the money, you know, having the basic product right and safe. That, you know, it's just a matter of setting priorities, and I think only regulator can do something about it. RBI has been a very lax and a lenient, you know, regulator when it comes to these things. When it comes to mis-selling, when it comes to the service standard, you know, fixing accountability, because, you know, today fixing accountability has become a great problem, because today everything is interconnected. You take a you have a bank card and you have a bank account somewhere else, and you are withdrawing money from some other ATM. You are using it online, and even if you are very conscious of, you know, ensuring that these credentials are never compromised, how do you actually protect it? And in fact, there is so less thinking, and there is so, because I find it quite shocking that I need OTP, you know, one-time password as second factor authentication for a online purchase of 100 rupees. But if I have to do $1,000 purchase overseas, it's not needed. I find it quite amusing.
So it's very, okay. So what Dhirendra is saying is that even if someone skims your card,
it's a problem which has to be solved by the banks themselves.
Right. So even if someone skims your card, they should not be allowed to make those withdrawals because there should be checks and balances in place to make sure nobody can make a withdrawal. PK Jain joins us. He's a former IPS officer. I just want to take one more phone call before we go to Mr. Jain. Shekhar Ghosh is on the phone line from Mumbai. Go ahead, Shekhar. What would you like to say?
Good evening, Priya. How are you?
Good evening.
Okay, what I was thinking is, see, what has recently happened is I've almost started using 90% of all my withdrawals and expenses through cards. I was one question I wanted to ask the panelists, can there be fingerprint alongside usage of a card in ATM? Because since by
Can we use fingerprints as authentication at an ATM? I suppose that's possible. MD Gulzar is on the phone line from Delhi. Mr. Gulzar, go ahead. Mr. Gulzar?
Yeah, Gulzar this side.
Yes.
I am carrying a Citibank credit card.
Yes.
Someone, I am from Delhi. Someone withdrew some 10,000 amount from Panipat branch, ICICI Bank. I don't know how it happened. I called to Citibank customer care. They are telling me that it will take 2 days to investigation. Then we will confirm you that how it will happen and how will you get the refund amount the same.
Right, so it just seems, of course, like these cases are popping up from across the country. Let me just bring in Mr. PK Jain, who has just joined us on the show. Mr. Jain, the RBI on last count said there were 12,000 such cases of ATM fraud that took place between 2015-16. It seems like right now the kind of phone calls we're getting on our lines, it seems like this might be a much higher number this year. Do you believe that we are equipped to handle this kind of crime, Mr. Jain?
See, there are different types of cases. There are cases where there's a group of offenses in one particular ATM or a number of ATMs of the same bank. And then there are sporadic cases. As far as the sporadic cases are concerned, we are not really equipped. The bank at best, what they can do is after investigation, they can pay back the money to the account holder or the card user. And as far as the group frauds are concerned, where a large number of cards are misused because a machine has been compromised, there also the banks have been compensating the account holders. As far as the machinery is concerned, we are really not equipped. I am personally aware of the cyber crime cells in various districts in the state. It will take a long time before we can really, technically be up to date or up to the mark for investigating such cases. Most of the time it is left to the bank to investigate and pick up the trail. The police and the bank working together can probably work out a mechanism. But if you ask me, only the police, well, we are certainly not equipped to handle this kind of a traffic at the moment.
Well, I want to bring in Sanyog here. Sanyog, there are 2.2 lakh ATMs in this country, 60% of which run on an outdated Windows XP software. Tell me something, if someone is going to skim my card, which is make a copy of it, how long does that person need the card for? When I hand it over at a restaurant or at a petrol station to pay for petrol, how long does the person need to actually make a copy of the card?
Well, it can be done quickly, like a fraction of seconds, like the tapers who
it doesn't take any time at all. He can simply swipe the card, one swipe.
One swipe. One swipe is all it takes?
Yeah,
Sanyog?
that's right. So
I would like to state here.
Go ahead, one second. Go ahead, Mr. Jain. Go ahead.
Can I? See, what I'm trying to say, it takes a fraction of a second to make a copy of a card, to skim the card. It is the device in which the card is swiped and the entire data goes onto the machine, and which can be copied onto another card. Now, it's a question of getting the PIN of that particular card, which also people have found devious means to and various means to pick up the PIN of the card. My advice to every card user is that never let the card out of your sight, whether it is at the petrol pump or at a restaurant. Ask for the machine to be brought to your table or walk up to the counter to make a payment. But never let go the card, because it is not only the data on the card. If your CVV number is also taken down by the person concerned and he has a look at the card, your card can still be misused for all the online transactions. Yes. Now a number of safeguards are being built up into the system by way of OTPs and all that, like Mr. Duggal was just now saying. So that is an additional security. But at many places, on shops, etc., only mere a swipe and a pin is good enough for the card to be misused.
Well, if we are doing some online transaction which is outside the country, that time we don't require the OTP password as well as like CVV number and 16-digit number is very enough to do any transactions over like outside the country. Even this transactions basically, I will even recommend to the users like use a virtual card. Like nowadays there is a virtual card where basically you can limit the cash, like rather than using the debit card. Like if somebody got the debit card details, so they whatever the cash available in your account, it can be just
completely cleaned out. Okay, so this is a very interesting advice that basically open a spending account where you only move a certain amount of money at a time and only use that card. So even if someone compromises the details of your card in whatever way, you only have, you know, whatever is your comfort level, 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees in that account, and it doesn't give them access to all your savings or all of the money you have in your bank account. Ravi Shankar put his hand up. Ravi Shankar, you don't think that's a good enough solution?
No, it's not a solution. I just have to remember that a big bunch of frauds actually happened on the 1st of the month when people have their salaries in their account. So it is also smartly done by the scamsters. So my question is different. My question is, how is the police pushing the banks to take adequate security? Right? So I believe that's a big gap in this whole chain.
How do we get the banks to take adequate security and also take adequate accountability? At the end of the day, if I have not compromised, it's not my fault, like Dhirendra said. I should be able to get my money back, but it's something that the banks are not willing to take responsibility for. Roongta, how do we make banks take responsibility for this?
Make them pay.
How?
Till you make them pay, till you pay. I mean, there have been clear cases of negligence and connivance. Those, I mean, if those are proven, come down like a brick of tons. I mean, come down heavily on such banks. Put in those, you know, huge fines on one bank, and you can bet that other banks will fall in place. I mean, money is the only language that banks understand, and that's the only language that they should understand. But when you get away with a slap on your wrist, who is going to invest? I mean, I think one gentleman spoke about fingerprint scanning. Now, yes, Aadhaar enabled, and of course that's a completely different debate that we had on this, but an Aadhaar enabled ATM or an Aadhaar enabled POS is very much out there, but clearly
we should only allow you know, withdrawal if the fingerprints match, which actually makes sense. Abraham is on the phone line from Chennai. Abraham, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Faya. Good evening.
Good evening.
It's a wonderful program that you're doing. Let me congratulate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. See, the thing is, it happened a few months back. I got a suspicious call from a mobile number, and that number was based in North India. And they asked me to do some payments for a genuine online transaction. But when I was doing the payment, it got redirected to a particular site, Snapdeal site, and certain item was purchased, and my money was used for that. Then what happened was, this all happened through the PayUmoney. And I realized that something has gone wrong. I immediately I sent an email to PayUmoney saying that something like this has happened. They took up my case. And they refunded me back the money in a period of time. At the same time, I went to Cyber Cell in Chennai. I lodged a complaint. But you know, the unfortunate part is, till now, I have not got a solution.
Right. Not got a solution up till now. Let me just take a few more calls. Malik is on the phone line from Mumbai. Malik, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Malik. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Malik. Good evening. Yeah. My question is that why isn't the system of OTP for processing the transaction instead of 3-pin, while the OTP system is being used for each and every transaction on online, means on web.
Why aren't you using the OTP?
OTP for
I'm assuming it's because it will become very cumbersome. If you have to go to an ATM and it will send you a message, then you have to open the message. Just that the whole purpose of the ATM is to save time. And including the OTP will actually reduce that process completely. Vikram Singh and PK Jain, as former police officers, please tell us, what is the average hit rate for someone who goes to a police station to file an FIR saying that this is how I lost money? What are the odds that this person will get attention from the police force, that they will be helpful? Or do you think it makes most sense for the customer to just go with the FIR to the bank and try to recover their money? Vikram Singh.
The probability of getting a favorable response is around 10%, and the probability of getting the money back is something around 30%. And if he is lucky, perhaps he might get his money, as many of the callers have got their money. You have been inundated with calls. But I am not very optimistic because the conditions do not seem to be very reassuring.
PK Jain?
I would slightly disagree with Singh Saab, for the simple reason that in many cases that I have come across, the banks have always been compensating their customers. And as far as the possibility of the police getting attention, the customer getting attention from the police, it invariably doesn't happen in the first place. He is first advised to go to the bank, and after he is reported to the bank, then he can come to the police and lodge a complaint. But straightway, if he goes to the police station first, in my experience, the response is practically next to zero.
Oh, that's the unfortunate part, Harshugda. Unfortunately, and this is true, we've talked about this, the fact that crime, fraud in ATMs, frauds of credit cards is actually a crime where people lose money. It's robbery. But somehow the law enforcement doesn't treat it like robbery because they have other serious things to deal with, like murder and rapes and things like that. So this gets pushed to the back, and the customers are expected to somehow figure it out themselves. And we're getting a lot of calls. My producer just tells me people who said the banks have not given them their money back. There might be a few lucky customers who've received a refund, but in a lot of cases, banks have not given them the money back. So they're not getting help from the police and they're not getting help from the banks. Harsh?
So I think if you are going to be if you go after this, this is the money that I'm going to get, and if you're not at fault, I think if you go after the bank, use the redressal machinery, use the social media, for example, I think your probability of at least getting your money back, I would put it in the 70s or 80% types. But please remember, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of frustration,
right. Let me give you
which is a shame.
Well, let me give you statistics. In the first 4 months of 2017, 178 cases of such fraud of debit and credit cards were reported. 15 cases have been solved so far. 15 cases out of 178 have been solved. So that means 15 people have received their money back. Manjunath is on the phone line from Bangalore. Manjunath, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Manjunath.
Hi, thanks for giving me an opportunity.
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to share an experience. One of my sister, she lost around 19,500, which is unauthorized debit into her account. When we come to know that it has been withdrawn at an ATM at Mumbai. She stays at Hubli at Karnataka.
Yes.
So we raised this issue with the Vijaya Bank, and they raised an online complaint. There was nothing worked out. Then we filed a FIR with the police. I don't know how far it will help. So,
but did you get your money back, Manjunath? Did you get your money back?
No,
she didn't
we
get
have not got the money back.
She didn't get her money back. Dhirendra Kumar, a lot of the people who are calling us right now, and we might not be able to put everybody through onto the show, are telling us that they have not received any sort of resolution. They haven't received their money back. And the statistics also show us that resolution of these cases are very poor.
Yes, but you have to be persistent. You have to communicate, email, and write mails often, document everything, explain the situation. And this is something, this is actually a nuisance because it is at absolutely no fault of the customer. And nothing works out, go to the bank's ombudsman. This is, one centralized, and this is where I feel that, once you have tried out things don't work out. They definitely, ensure that, it is taken to some logical conclusion. Sometimes it is not to the customer's favor, but they have to provide the evidence for it. So you have recourse. But I think, I would still like to emphasize that customers can be careful a little bit. Most of the care and the risk management has to be, care has to be implemented at the bank level. Trying to get at the criminal investigation system and criminal justice system to bring people to justice, we are just not geared. I think prevention is the only mechanism, and banks have to do it. And RBI should make sure that, they are holding them accountable and responsible.
Well, I'm going to ask a very simple question of anyone who wants to answer. Pawan Duggal, for example, if I walk into an ATM, which I'm going to have to at some point withdraw money, how do I tell if there's a skimming device attached to that ATM is going to make a copy of my card? Is it possible for an average customer or an average citizen to be able to tell that that ATM has been compromised?
Well, very difficult, because from the naked eye, it's going to be very difficult to find out. Of course, if you're going to be very meticulous, if you're going to watch the entire machine properly, maybe you can get some instance. But the chances are that if there are 10 users who go in on an average, the chances are that 8 out of them, 10 may never even identify that such a device has been put up. And I think that's what brings us to the central point once again, that somewhere down the line, the perception that cyber security will only have to be done by the bank or by the government is a wrong perception. We'll all have to building in a culture of cyber security as a part of our day-to-day lives. We must start beginning to question institutions, machines, ATMs, processes. At the end of the day, the more finicky we become, the more secure we're going to be in terms of our data. Because once you become a victim, then getting your money back is well nigh impossible. There are hardly very few instances where money has been paid. Most of the time, people invariably get tired out because they cannot wait for such a long process.
Right. I have to wrap up this conversation. But, when initially we started using ATMs, our parents would always tell us to put the money away, don't hold it in your hand. Someone might snatch it from your hand while you're stepping out of the ATM. That kind of crime is a thing of the past. What they're doing right now is taking it straight out of your bank account and copying your cards. You can never take it for granted that you're completely safe in an ATM, because a small device could be attached to the machine that's making a copy of your card. What we've learned on the show today is to never let your card out of your sight. Always make sure your card is being swiped in front of you. Try and cover the machine when you're keying in your password, even at a restaurant or at a petrol station or at a shop where you're actually paying. Remember, there's a CCTV camera that could be recording you actually punching in your code, and they'd be able to match the two together. Be super, super careful, because the point that you're looking at on the other side is if someone compromises your card and starts withdrawing money, you have to deal with the bank to get your money back. And we all know what happens when the bank has to pay you. It's normally an uphill conversation. Like most of our experts have told us, that you have to be persistent if you want the bank to pay you. Keep pushing until you actually get that resolution, because you are entitled to the money. It is yours. The bank has to refund it. It's just a question of how persistent you will be. We'll keep this conversation going, as we've noticed that the number of these crimes are actually shooting through the roof, and it's something we should all be aware of. We should make our police forces more equipped to handle these problems, and we should make our banks more accountable. Thanks for watching.